So this is going to be a video response to Verlisify's video on how he feels about cheating, and he was actually very harsh in that. Now, I'm not making this video to bash Verlisify in any way. I am actually a fan of his content, and I do support him from people who are completely irrational. But in this case, Verlisify 2 is also being completely irrational. I am a player who likes playing Pokemon competitively, but I am also a player that doesn't have the time to sit down and breed Pokemon, something he said everyone should be able to do. This simply isn't true. In my day, I am a freelance artist, so I spend a lot of my time drawing so that way I can make money to pay my bills. I don't actually work a traditional, 8 to 5 job or have to go out, bag groceries. I don't do any of that. I spend a lot of my time drawing. As a matter of fact, there are some days where I'm drawing 14 hours a day. So as you can imagine, my sleep schedule is completely off, and when I do sleep, I sleep. So I really don't have the time to sit down and breed Pokemon. I also go to school full time, and you can imagine that is very stressful. And when I have time to sit down and play games, I really don't want to put all of my time that I have available for that to breed Pokemon. I haven't even turned my PlayStation 4 on in like 5 months. That's saying something. But when it comes to breeding Pokemon, it's something I don't have time for. I was trying to play a game against somebody at my college in a match of Pokemon, and he asked me whether or not, excuse me, he asked me whether or not I hacked or ginned my Pokemon. I told him, yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. And he was like, yeah, I don't want to play you. And I was like, well, why not? And he was like, well, because, I actually took the time to raise my Pokemon. And that's a fair point. Some people do have more time than others to breed Pokemon. And he said he didn't want to play me. So I told him, it's like, yeah, well, I can get this anyway if I wanted to. And he was like, well, breed a 6 IV Pokemon of your choice or whatever and show it to me. So I did just that. I bred a 6 IV Talonflame with Gale Wings, mind you, with Gale Wings. That was also Jolly, I believe. And I bred that, and it took me a week to get that. And that was just a week for one Pokemon. And if I wanted to breed an entire team, then that would at least take me 6 weeks. Over a month and a half to breed an entire team of 6 Pokemon. Now, what if one of those Pokemon were legendary? I like Zapdos, and I like using Zapdos on my teams. You can't breed Zapdos. So I would have to, in my case, restart my Pokemon X just to be able to get a Zapdos. Now, they made grinding legendaries a lot easier because you automatically get 331s on that Pokemon. But I needed one with Hidden Power Ice because it's good. So I would need to have a Zapdos with 4 31 IVs and 2 30s. Or is it 3 31s and 3 30s? Some really odd combination of really high IVs to get that. I could get it, yes, but the time required to do that is simply just too much. And I'm not going to, waste my time going for that. Verlisify's example is if you cheat, you're a bastard. You're the worst type of person there could possibly be. And I simply don't see that when it comes to this case. When somebody cheats, they are doing so to gain an unfair advantage against someone else. When you gen a Pokemon, you're putting a Pokemon in a game, if you're using it competitively, within the parameters of a competitive player. Whenever I do gen my Pokemon, I do it for the purpose of being able to get what I would normally get in far less amount of time. And I see nothing wrong with that. Take this Pidgeot, for example. This here is a Pidgeot that I bred with 6 IVs in all stats because I like to have, you know, a 6 IV Pidgeot. Now I do have one with Hidden Power Fighting and Hidden Power Ground. Those are ginned. But for my breeding set, I like to have one with max IVs and max EVs. But that took like what, 2 weeks to get, and it's simply not practical for me. But this other Pidgeot that I made, keyword, I made this Pidgeot and put it into my game, took like 7 minutes to get. Now, if I didn't tell you that I ginned my Pokemon, or an opponent didn't tell you that you ginned your Pokemon, would you be able to tell this Pidgeot that I bred apart from the Pidgeot that I ginned? And the simple answer is no. Now, the way Verlisify made it sound is there's some moral issue here, that cheating in a children's video game. He says this, a children's video game. As in saying you have to cheat at a kid's game to win. And it's simply not that. No one is cheating at a kid's game. People are doing what they would normally do so they can get what they would get in a week's time on a single Pokemon in far less time. Now, Pokemon has made breeding a lot easier, far easier. And I've been breeding Pokemon since Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. So I am a seasoned veteran when it comes to breeding Pokemon. And I've noticed the changes that they made in every game to make it easier. But the thing is it still takes too much time. They just released the hidden or the Dream World abilities of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Rather than me investing in the Pokemon that I have now, it's better for me to gin the Pokemon, figure out how I want to use it, and then go from there. I also use Pokemon Showdown as a resource for doing these type of things, so I don't simply waste my time in breeding a Pokemon that I'm not going to use for another one. Let's say I wanted a modest like Pidgeot for Mega to utilize its max attack. I suddenly have to go back and breed an entirely new Pidgeot, which could take me at least a week, since it takes me at least a week to get what I want. And what if I have to do that for my entire team? I change one part out. Then I have to change everything to work around that. It's simply too much time, and I simply don't want to deal with that. There is one thing that I have to say though. When you gin a Pokemon, it is cheating. There's no other way around that. Because you are using an outside method to influence the way the game works or to get what you want. It is not intended for you to abuse a hex editor in order to inject a Pokemon you want to the game. That's an exploit, and exploits are often seen as cheats. You're not supposed to use that to get that game or to get that Pokemon. That's not the intended way of getting that Pokemon. The intended way of getting a 6 IV Pidgeot is to sit down and grind your ass off to get it. That's the intended way to get it. Or maybe you get it from an event from Nintendo or whatever. But it's not intended for you to inject it into the game. That is cheating. And I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm not saying that I don't cheat in this game. When I put a Pokemon into the game, I'm doing so I can get a competitive team without sitting down and doing this. Pokemon is now a game of money. When you're playing in a VGC tournament, you can earn money. It's usually in the form of scholarships, but you can cash scholarships out now. They just changed that. So whenever you inject something into the game, you are cheating. It's as simple as that. But what Verlisify needs to understand is not everybody has this situation. I don't have the time to sit down and breed Pokemon. I draw all day. And when I'm not doing that, I'm studying for school. I also have a movie project that I'm working on and a new project that I just took on where we're making a game. All of this takes time, and I simply don't have the time to sit down hours a day for weeks, because it can take weeks to get what you want, to breed a single Pokemon. I can't do that. I'm not willing to do that. But I can get what I want in far less time than what it would take me to get it the natural way. And that's what I'm going to say, the natural way to get it. I understand this here is a hot topic issue for a lot of people, but people are really blowing it out of proportion. Do you have people that just want to cheat the system and abuse it? Yes, you do. But a lot of your players that play Pokemon they're not doing this. They're not cheating to try to game the system. They're doing it because they want to play competitive Pokemon with other players. This is the reason why a lot of us choose to play on Pokemon Showdown rather than playing in the actual game. Because I can make a bunch of different teams quickly and play them against other people who want to play quick games and test teams. It does me no good to completely test, say, a Vaporeon that I'm building, and it's completely wrong, and then have to go back and do it again. It's not easy to reset IVs. Or, no, you can't reset IVs. I meant to say EVs. It's not easy to reset EVs. And it's not easy to get those same EVs either. When I could just copy it off of a text file and inject it into the game and instantly get the result that I'm looking for, rather than sitting down for hours trying to get it. I do understand where Verlisify is coming from with this, and he is right. This is cheating, and Pokemon Company should do whatever they need to do to prevent cheating. If that means they have to change data to prevent exploits from working, then that's what they have to do. I want them to do that. But what he needs to understand is not everybody has the time he has to breed. This is the same thing like playing any other game. I play the Pokemon trading card game and I actually sit down and build my deck. Then I go to an event and lose to somebody who just built the deck off the internet somewhere because the deck won. Well, there goes all of my testing because it didn't mean anything against the deck that this guy just went online and built. It's the same thing. At the end of the day, people want to get results. My Pidgeot that I bred is no different than the one I ginned in the game, and you're not going to be any wiser of it. But I do understand where he's coming from. There are people who think this isn't cheating. Those people are wrong. This is cheating. But a lot of us who do this do it because we simply don't have the time to do it. And he needs to respect those people that want to play a competitive game. And I'm not saying competitive Pokemon in general as the entire game, but I'm just talking a competitive match. People want to play a competitive match of Pokemon where they can play at their best. My Pidgeot that I ginned that has max IVs is going to perform no differently than a Pidgeot that somebody bred for 6 IVs. It's just, it took him much longer to get it than it took me. And that's it. What we all need to do as a community is respect one another. If somebody wants to sit down and breed their Pokemon, then great. But those people that do sit down and breed their Pokemon don't need to sit there and act like they are somehow superior than somebody else that doesn't. Because a lot of us who play competitive Pokemon can breed a 6 IV Pokemon. We can breed a 5 IV Pokemon easily. But we can also breed those 6 IV Pokemon. We simply just don't have the time to do it. So that's all that I'm going to say on that. Like I said, this isn't a video to bash Verlisify or any other people who think like him. And this isn't an attempt to bash people who do gen their Pokemon. I'm just saying it as a person who is completely too busy to sit down and breed Pokemon. Yes, I gen my Pokemon. I don't see anything wrong with that because they can exist in the game as you could if you want to naturally get them. That's fine. But at the same time, I also want the people who do gen their Pokemon to realize that this is in fact cheating, manipulating the data, however you want to say it. This isn't intended. It's not intended for you to get a Pokemon in that way. So that's all I got to say on that. Hopefully, you guys think about it and stop fighting over it because it's a dumb issue to fight about. If you want to gen your Pokemon, gen them. If you want to sit down and breed your Pokemon, then breed them.